because the second you cut them off, you create resistance, right? If I interrupt you, you're going to be like, what's wrong with you, right? So don't create that resistance. Just let it go and move on, and then you can come back to it.
What did you end up learning that stuff, like the being in control, cutting people off, owning the room, like it wasn't working?
It wasn't working because, right, if I'm trying to own the room and be in control, and they're doing the same thing, what kind of conversation are we going to have? Right?
Not a good one.
Not a very productive one, right?
No.
We're just going to be fighting over who's in control of this conversation, where it's going to go. I learned that if you take your foot off the gas and back off a little bit, let them be in control for a while. Let them go where they want to go, right? Because I don't know where they want to go. Maybe I'm going to learn something on that, and often have learned some pretty surprising stuff when I let that happen. Let them go where they want to go, but we can still change the dynamic later when I need to drive it in a certain direction. Now I can take some control, but if I've let them have their turn, it's more likely they'll then give me my turn, right? But if we're both here, we're just going to fight the whole time, right? And there's the opposite of that. If neither want to be in control, but I've seen that in a lot of interviews, then you just have inertia in a terrible interview.
It's quiet.
Yeah.
So what was it like when you began doing interviews in Pakistan?
um,
And may I
uh,
ask, like, who were you interviewing in Pakistan? Was it a specific terrorist organization? Were you gathering intel?
I was gathering intelligence, occasionally gathering evidence for FBI cases, but I was primarily there for intelligence gathering. And they're all different terrorists. So there's Al Qaeda, Tricky Taliban, Pakistan, TTP, Lashkar-e-Taiba, and a few others that I'm forgetting right now. But I interviewed guys from Jaish-e-Mohammed, some others, but I interviewed guys from a lot of different terrorist groups. So I would go every day, um, sometimes not Fridays, but every day to interview somebody for 6, 7 hours sometimes.
How was that? Did they want to talk to you?
Generally not. No. So the that's where I was like, okay, how do we develop what even is rapport? And then how do we develop rapport to get somebody to want to talk to me who has a lot of reasons why they don't want to talk to me? Why would they want to tell me their terrorist plans? Why would they want to tell me about their friends, people that they've spent years with? Right? And why would they want to do that in the presence of Pakistanis who might treat them rather harshly for
Speaking.
speaking? Yeah.
So then if people are so dedicated, how do you get them to open up and talk to you? Is it really just through, and it's interesting, you use the word rapport,
Yeah.
which most people, when you bring it up to them, they roll their eyes, kind of like, yeah, I know what that is.
Yeah. So I think everybody considers rapport as just being nice and being friendly and
How's your dog? How's your
yeah,
cat? How's the kids?
right. Tell me about your hobbies. You ask a terrorist about his hobbies, he's look at you like you're insane. Right?
Right.
But part of rapport is that having a conversation with somebody as a human, but it's using that to understand what matters to them, what drives them as an individual, and picking up on that through the conversation so that then you can use those things that they value, that they care about, to get in sync with them essentially on those, right? That's more rapport in my mind, is getting in sync at that beliefs and values level and understanding what's motivating that person and reflecting back that I am understanding it and I'm listening to you to understand that, right? The other stuff, yeah, I do want to talk about it, but I want to know you, and making that clear through the conversation, not telling them that per se, but
So my goal is not my agenda. My goal is you. Because
yes,
when people feel like your goal is your agenda,
right.
that's when they turn off,
Yeah. If I come in with my list of questions, right, here's what I need to know.
which most agents do, right?
Yeah. So that if you can create that different dynamic, and exactly as you said, right, my agenda is you. This stuff may or may not come, but it's driven by a genuine curiosity rather than trying to get a confession or something. So there's that part of rapport, but rapport is also what we are talking about before, is getting in sync in terms of who's going to be in charge or how we're talking about something. So there's a lot of levels of rapport. So the affective level is basically, how do they feel about me, right? That's my demonstrating that I care about them. Behavioral level,
When you say affective level, it means how, it's like, that would mean what in this situation? It would mean how
how
I feel
they're
about
feeling. Yep.
how they're feeling about you, whether they like you, feel good around you.
If I'm making them feel good and not threatened, right? So I'm not threatening their sense of self-worth or their autonomy, anything like that, right? That they feel like they have some control and choice within this situation, and that kind of the empathy piece, that I actually care about you as a person, right? If you can do these things well, I call it creating belonging, agency, security, and empathy. And if I can do those four things, so then you feel good about the situation.
Can you break those four things down?
So belonging is, it's you and me having a conversation. We're here to work through whatever the situation is together, and I am here with you, right? I'm not here against you, right? So rather, like we're talking now, right? Talking like that versus, a chair or a table, sorry, in between us, right? Which creates that me, you dynamic versus an us dynamic, and using language, it's us and those types of things, right? So creating that sense, and agency is giving them a feeling that they do have some control. They can talk about what they want to talk about, right? If they go off on a tangent, I'm not going to cut them off. At some point I might have to, but generally try to let them go with the tangent. Let them have small choices, right? Where do you want to sit, right? If you need a break, let me know. Anything like that.
Which is interesting. Did you ever hear I had heard it with I think it was the Israelis, I can't remember who it was, where they would, whatever seat you picked was the wrong seat. They'd make you
Yeah,
get up
right. Yep.
to make you feel that you weren't in control.
Yep. And
Was an
that,
interrogation
yep.
technique.
Yeah, I definitely have been taught that and heard that and learned that. But the second you do that, now the person's, right, you've again created resistance. They have less motivation to want to talk to you or engage with you. So why can't I sit there? What? And they see it as a trick anyway. So now you're trying to trick me. So which kind of gets to the security part, right? That feeling safe within the situation and safe to say what, that I'm not going to judge them basically for whatever they say, right? So to me, the security part, it is a physical security, but more it's an emotional security, that I'm not going to be judged, right? I'm accepting you as a person, whatever you say, whatever you tell me, whoever you killed, I'm not judging you for it, right? And then empathy is that genuine attempt to see it from their point of view, right? It's not feeling sorry for somebody or apologizing or whatever. It's, I'm asking questions that demonstrate that I want to understand your point of view, not seeing it from my point of view or not envisioning what I would do in your situation, but what did you do in your situation? What did you feel and why?
When I hear people say, I would never do that, I think that's like that's your greatest Achilles heel. When you,
Yeah.
well, I would never this and I would never that.
Yeah.
And I hear this from so many people who are very frustrated with other people or in relationships. And it's like, it's not a, it's not about
It's not
you.
about you.
It's
Yep.
not about you. You're imposing what you would never do
Right. And you don't even know that you would never do that because you're not in
in
their
that
situation. You're
situation.
not them in that situation. I always use the term interpersonal communication, trying to move away from the interrogation thing, because to me, that's what it boils down to, is how do you effectively communicate with another person? Sometimes it's in a more challenging setting, but in general, that's really what it is. And we forget that sometimes. Generally, what I found effective was having a conversation with them, right? Not diving into tell me about, the TTP training camps, but more, what village did you grow up in? Oh, I know where that is. Cool. And talk about that for a while and then talk about their life. And often I would say, I imagine when you were a kid in that village, your life's ambition wasn't to end up sitting across this table talking to me. So what did you want to do? And just get them talking about that and connect with them as a human. And sometimes it might take a few days, but you'd get there. One guy I knew really loved reading, and he told me what book he'd been reading when he was arrested. I was able to find it, went out and read it that night, and came back in the next day. And that's all we talked about for most of that day, was that book. But after that, he told me everything I wanted to know.
It's interesting because most people, one of the issues a lot of people have is they go straight, not just investigators or interviewers, but people in general, they want to go straight to the point of what they want.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself typically doesn't work.
No, generally not, especially if it's something the person doesn't want to talk about, right? Like I said, that immediately creates resistance. Why are you making me talk about this thing that I don't want to talk about? And I've told you I don't want to talk about it sometimes, right? And as Americans, we're just really bad about that, right? We just want to get to the point. How we're culturally made, and I get that. So it is kind of unlearning that.
How do you combat somebody who looks to you like, go get me some answers, like, I need this information ASAP, and they think one of the things that I would deal with, because I was a polygraph examiner and I would be called in to do the difficult cases, and there was this kind of weight on you. It's like, okay, go rub those two sticks together or whatever,
Right.
like go do your magic trick and get me something.
Yeah.
And it was very hard for people to understand, like I wasn't a magician, like it didn't
Right.
work that way.
Yeah. 90% of the time, like those, I need this stuff now is artificially created. You don't, right? There's no ticking time bomb, right? There's very rarely is something going to explode in the next few minutes that you need this information immediately, right? So as the interviewer, recognizing that, and I've conveyed that to supervisors, right? Do you want it done fast or well? Let me know, right? So I'm going to go in and do it well, unless you want it done fast, and then you'll get whatever results you get. But usually that would put them off a little bit. And I probably made it sound like developing rapport can take hours, and I think there's a misconception that that's the case. And sometimes it did, right? If I'm interviewing terrorists in Pakistan, it is going to take time. There's probably no way I'm going to get that information that I want in the first day, right? That said, if we focus on getting in sync with someone at kind of the more behavioral level and conversational level, how they're talking about something and what type of language they're using, and getting in sync with that quickly, we can speed it up, right? It might not be as genuine or as deep, but we can speed up the rapport to where we can get to the information quicker than old school styles would.
You worked stuff for Bin Laden's case as well.
I did, yeah. So some of that I can't talk about, but